Welcome to the Dirty Penguin Presents Movies! Welcome to the Dirty Penguin Presents Movies. I'm your host, Kevin Waits, and I'm joined in the igloo, as always, by my faithful penguin co-hosts, Doug, Angie, Jesse, and Andy. Today, we are squawking about 1999's The Boondocks Saints.
Boondocks Saints.
Is it not plural?
No, it's not.
No,
it's
the
not
Saints
Saints is
plural.
plural. Boondock is not.
Why
Boondocks
not?
Saints.
So,
Because Boondock,
so what you're confusing it with is Boondocks, the show,
which
and
is
then
spectacular,
the
by the
Boondock
way.
Saints. I think Boondock is a adjective, so it won't be pluralized.
Boondock is a place, wouldn't it?
Right, but it's like saying he's a Houstonian or something like that. I don't know.
Your urge to pluralize it is based on being like down at the docks.
Down
Yeah, like in the boondocks.
Boondocks.
Like whenever I've always referenced that. Where are you going? Out to the boondocks.
Mhm.
Right.
Well, yes.
But these saints are
From
They're singular boondock.
they're from the
They're
Boondocks.
boondockian.
But this makes them the Boondock Saints.
Saints is pluralized.
Yes.
Boondock is not.
Are we sure
That-
about this? It's the Boondock.
It's Boondock, yes. I'm looking at it.
We all
We
watched
are a
this movie, right?
well-researched podcast.
It's easy to pluralize because I think that Saints, it's easy to mash them together. Boondocks Saints.
because of the S.
Yeah,
on
that because
Saints.
you're that E part of the S. Boondock
Saints.
Yeah, it automatically right. It automatically pluralizes it.
Because the next word starts with the S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, unless you're like slurring your words like Boondock Saints.
This
Boondock
is the
Saints.
defense for your mistake.
or
in the
maybe
title of the
or unless you're Mike Tyson and then it's the Boondocks Saints.
Oh, my goodness. So, Boondock Saints.
I chose this movie. Yes.
This was your choice.
Yes. But how about before we jump right into the discussion? How about Doug? Why don't you give us those fresh movie facts?
Fresh facts, buddy.
Give it to us straight, Doug.
Play the facts.
Give it to us straight, Doug.
The Boondock Saints, made in 1999, and as this topic of the season is critics hated, audiences loved.
Thanks for that reminder, Doug.
This is probably one of the biggest ones. And it's like one of the biggest ones. I mean, there's some really bad movie but this one is probably the one that stands out the most. So there's no guessing what it is because I think we should all know what it was. The critics were 22% and the audience is 91%.
Wow, that's quite the
So
discrepancy.
as far as
Yeah,
fitting
big
into
time.
the category, it is probably the number one film that pops out if you research this category.
And I guess one of the things is when I was researching some of this stuff, did you happen to look at any of the reviews? And
I actually did not.
well, it's not a big deal.
Well, I did. I did do some YouTube reviews, watched, but I didn't like many of them, and I cut them off. I just switched.
So I guess they show the reviews that Rotten Tomatoes judges them by. There's only like 27. At the beginning, like the first reviews they had on there were from like 2002. To get in the fresh facts, for some of that reason is this movie, because of Columbine, happened.
Absolutely.
Oh
It was only in the theaters for a week.
I forgot about that.
It was only at, if I'm correct, Doug, it was only at like 5 theaters. It only had 5 screen release for like a week.
5 theaters for only 1 week, and it made like
Yes.
$30,000.
And made
Wow.
$30,000, and then it was pulled, but made a huge recovery in the DVD.
in DVD.
set.
I can
Yep.
I can imagine that. That's got to be where that 91% comes in.
So Blockbuster is what really made this movie.
It had a
And
blockbuster release.
So one of the sad kind of stories about this is Troy Duffy is the writer and director who came up with this whole thing. He didn't get rights to the video.
Oh, God,
which
that
also
sucks.
meant that none of the actors or performers
Got
get
paid.
any money from the video.
So there's a big lawsuit that ended up happening, and they eventually won rights to do that for royalties and a sequel, which
Yes.
they did do.
Yeah.
But one of the other things was, so there's this, and I've never seen it, a documentary over
Troy Duffy
over, it's basically his like downfall. Like this was like he's only done 2 movies. Like he's done like one other, like I guess, but he's done Boondock Saints and Boondock Saints 2.
Well, he was. I'm sure your fresh facts show this. He was like a bartender,
Yes.
and he wrote this while he was bartending,
Mhm.
and then he passed it off to like a showrunner or a producer for. I'm not sure for what movie company, Miramax maybe. I don't know.
It was Weinstein's company that eventually bought it.
Yes, and they say that Weinstein had like really like screwed him over.
Well, they threw a bunch of money together. They threw money at him. Then apparently, when they went to film, he's kind of a jerk, and they pulled out on him, and he had to go shop it around again, and he ended up with about half the money that he originally was promised to make the film. It's my understanding.
So they say he wrote the screenplay. It was inspired by his disgust at seeing a drug dealer taking money from a corpse across the hall from his apartment, and he had never written a screenplay before. So he just was like, so that tells you, everybody out there, you can write a screenplay and you can make a great
Oh, that's
movie,
my
but still
dream.
fail at the movie business.
That's my dream.
You got to be able to get it
And
in
you
the
can still
hands of the
fail.
right person.
Anybody can write a screenplay and be a failure.
Again, that's my dream.
Right? It's like my life.
Hey,
I looked up Troy Duffy. It said there's a third something or
jeez.
other.
on the way.
There's Boondocks Saints, Boondocks Saints 2, which are 10 years apart. And then the Blood Spoon Council. It has no year that it was released or whatever. It just says that's the third thing. And then he's done recently a Knight Rider short.
Oh, wow.
Knight Rider short.
And I think that was in 2016.
Knight Rider was still
I don't
around.
even know what that means.
No, it was like a
reboot
yeah,
type deal?
it was a reboot, something or
But
other.
he did a short on a TV show.
Yeah, here.
Of
The
an old
TV
Of an
TV
old
show.
TV show. Rider, Knight Rider 2016. Short 2015, whatever that means.
Oh, that makes I get it now.
So
It's on the
I don't know.
difference.
It was 26. The title of the show was Knight Rider 2016.
And they released it in 2015.
And it was 2015.
Whoa.
I know. That's bold.
Okay. It was a future.
So they do have some very fascinating facts about this movie.
Hit us up with it.
Rocko, the character Rocko, is named after the actor who plays him because the character was based and written on him.
That's correct. He was one of the guys that hung out in the bar where the bartender wrote the film. And
Any thoughts on Rocko?
Oh, yes.
and Rocko-
David Della Rocco.
I-
I'm told
we need
that
to talk
when he
about
was
Rocko at
cast,
some
he said,
point.
"I'm not an actor," and they said, "Well, you don't need to do anything but play yourself. Just be yourself."
Rocko.
The word fuck and its derivatives are used a total of 246 times.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yes.
Okay.
Bill Connolly was so stoked to be playing El Duce and having so much fun playing a psycho with guns strapped all over him that they had to add a huge cigar to the character because he constantly was smiling.
Oh, really?
I thought that fucking cigar looked out of place.
Y'all do realize this is the second Billy Connolly movie we've discussed.
We are. Oh, I like to
How do you
announce.
mean? What was the first Billy Connolly movie?
A Decent Proposal, wasn't he?
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
He was the auctioneer. And then
Yes.
he played himself.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he
That's
was
right.
auctioning off the
Yeah,
endangered
okay.
But
animals.
I would like to announce to everyone that we are about to start a head of the class
Oh, yeah.
podcast where we just go over and rewatch
But
all of
he's
Billy
just
Connolly.
on
no,
the
but
last
just
season.
his season.
Just
Just
his
his
season.
season.
It's the Billy Connolly season.
Or as
Because
I
he
like to
took
call
over,
it,
right,
the
at
best
the end?
season.
We're going to skip
The
all the
only season.
WKRP years.
Yeah, the
Okay.
WKRP in Cincinnati years. Exactly.
Mark Wahlberg turned down the lead role to star in Boogie Nights.
Okay.
Good
Good
choice.
Or one
call.
of the lead
Probably,
roles.
Yeah.
I'd
That
say
was a
Mark
good call.
Wahlberg won on that
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Miramax preferred Sylvester Stallone, Bill Murray, or Mike Myers for Willam Defoe's character.
Oh, I can't.
I don't know
I
if
don't,
anyone
I
else
don't
Mike
think.
Myers,
I don't
no.
know. I don't think they could have pulled that off.
That is the most over-the-top William Defoe I've ever seen in any film
it's
ever.
the most
But we'll
William,
get to that.
It's
Troy-
the Willem Defoe
Troy-
I've seen Willem Defoe be.
Yeah.
Troy Duffy dismissed several casting choices for the film. He refused to meet with Brad Pitt because he'd already played an Irishman in The Devil's Own.
Can you imagine? No, I'm gonna. It's a hard pass on Brad Pitt.
Rejected Keanu Reeves and Ethan Hawke, calling the former a fucking punk and the latter a talentless fool.
This is what happens when
Wait,
a
wait.
bartender becomes a
Wait,
director.
wait, wait.
I mean,
Right?
they're very
So wait, this
opinionated.
is Troy Duffy saying this.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did that work out for him?
I have written one screenplay, and I tell you that you are a talentless hack.
I am a bartender.
I almost wish I'd known him at the time, and he could have like turned me down. I'd be spectacularly wealthy right now.
That's awesome.
And Il Duce was supposed to be named Darkman but of course he couldn't.
Do you think rights had something to do with that?
Okay.
I wonder if in some point in the movie, and he had in the script, "Die, Dark Man, die."
I'm going to point out just to everyone that if we ever do
Superhero
Dark Man
sequels, we
Oh.
will be watching Die, Dark Man, Die, which is number 3.
Okay.
I watched it the other day. Oh, so good.
Interesting. I've never.
And by
seen,
good, I mean
I've
not at
seen
all,
one.
but it's so
I've never seen
spectacularly
the third.
bad. The first
I've
one's
never seen any of
Any
them.
The
of
first
them.
one's not bad. It's got Liam Neeson in it.
If we do sequels, I could see us do sequels one day.
So I did. So here's some little blurbs for the reviews, which is how it got 22%. The Boondocks Saints has ended up a cheap-looking B movie that's pretentious, derivative, and sorely lacking a sense of fun. Another one said, an embarrassing waste of time and nothing even resembling the guiltiest of guilty pleasures. And another one
Wow,
said,
these are nice.
Duffy has made a film that sort of straddles the fine line between a great movie and a useless piece of garbage.
I think that's my favorite review ever.
Straddles the fine line between a great movie and a
Because-
useless piece of garbage.
Because
That's
you don't
awesome.
actually know where he falls on that line.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I
But
think
91% of the people on Rotten Tomatoes enjoyed
this is one
it.
of my
I mean, it's a
favorite
cult
reviews.
I mean, this is what is a very definition of a cult classic.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Andy, as we've discussed, you chose this movie.
Well,
Give
I
us some
chose this
thoughts on
movie
it.
mainly because of the category, and then every time I research this category, movies that critics panned and the audience liked, it's like the top of every list I looked at, and having had fond memories of it, I said, you know what, we have to do this movie. I don't know if you guys realize this, but I kept waiting for one of you guys to put Boondocks Saints in the hat as your must watch, and nobody did, and so I did just because I felt like we had to do it. I think it has a huge cult movie following. I think people want to hear us talk about it, and I think it deserves to be talked about.
When was the last time you'd seen this before we
Yeah,
did
probably
this?
about at least I would say probably at least 10 years since I'd seen it.
Yeah, same.
And I had somebody warn me. I was talking about doing the research for this podcast, and that I was going to watch the movie again, and they said, having watched it recently myself, they said, you're not gonna like it as much as you remember it. And then I watched it again. I wouldn't say that they were wrong. I did notice a lot more flaws with it, but I don't know. It's there are parts of the movie that are enjoyable. It's not a well tied together plot. It's definitely comes off as there's something amateurish or
I would agree with that.
about the way it's
About the way it's shot.
and put together. The
Put
brothers-
together, absolutely. Put together, absolutely. I would say how it's edited.
It's very
It's-
weird
it's-
transitions.
it's-
Did you notice that?
Well, it
okay.
doesn't have any
it
transition.
doesn't. It's
Well,
just like
I mean, I
cuts,
guess-
cuts.
I guess that's what I mean.
I want to
Smashed.
talk. I want
Like fade to
to
black,
address that
fade
about
from
the,
black.
about
Yeah.
the transitions, because I think one of the most, if there's anything about this movie that's genius, besides say maybe Willam Defoe, if there's anything about this film that's genius, it is in the telling of the action sequences. In that every time you get right on the verge of an action sequence, the movie stops and immediately goes to the investigation
the
of
aftermath,
what happened. And then you get to see the genius of Willam Defoe as he acts his
Yes.
way through what happened. That
Well,
part of the
but-
telling of the story, I think, is what makes it a great.
me too. I appreciate
for
it.
me.
That's
That's what I
but-
appreciate about the movie.
What I think is the genius part of that is all of those, all of the gigs that they do lead up to him acting through it. He doesn't actually act through it until that last
Until-
scene.
well,
but
you
he,
see-
well, he talks to. He's getting
It's
more and
peppered.
more.
He gets more and more into
And
it
then,
every
like,
time.
They smash it together finally with that last scene. With the first scene with Billy Connolly, where they're at the house.
Well, and that's
he's
really
acting
funny 'cause
while
that's the
it's
first time-
happening.
and that's the first time he
You
gets it
mean-
so wrong.
Yeah.
There were 6 shooters.
Exactly.
Wait. There was a firefight. I was saying that all day.
Oh my
I was just
God.
running around screaming
He really
that, and
has.
she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "There was a firefight."
Dude, the level of commitment
He
from Willem Dafoe.
I'm telling you
Chewed
that
the
is
hell
how
out of
it
that
is.
scenery.
the
That
scenery,
is the-
like
I
you
Chewed the
would
hell
suck.
out of it.
I appreciate how far and how committed William Defoe was to this role in part. And don't get me wrong, in today's PC culture, I don't think you could have a character like the one that William Defoe played.
I could have watched Willem Dafoe just going to crime scene after crime scene. I could have watched.
Right?
If that was a movie,
I would love
it
that as
would
a
have
TV
been
show.
1,000.
But isn't it amusing that he he starts the film interviewing the two guys who are about to go on this rampage, killing all these gangsters. He interviews them. And then after that interview, he kind of slaps on the back. You know, you guys didn't do anything wrong. Lets them walk out. And he spends the rest of the movie pursuing those same two guys. And it's like he forgot.
Well, first he was looking for a serial crusher.
Yeah, a giant serial crusher. A big fucking
he's
dude.
making fun of the
Yeah,
police
bring-
for coming up.
So funny.
And the scenes with him, they make the regular cops seem so inept,
Bumbly. Oh my
and
God.
bumbly. Like something as small as those burns on her back leads me to believe that she was tased. Wait, you're telling me that the regular cops couldn't tell a taser burn?
Well,
like
and it was great because at the very end, the guy's like, "Well, maybe it was one guy with 6 guns," and he's like, "Are you an idiot?
Yeah.
Are you
That
an
was-
idiot?
Right? That's what really happened."
Right.
Well, he's
You
getting
mean to
more
tell
and
me
more
there's
off
one guy with
notes
6 guns?
as this crime spree breaks him, you know, and he gets to the end. It's an enjoyable performance by
Well,
William Defoe.
it was humor in between all the gunfire. I thought that
all the violence.
between all the violence, there was purposeful back and forth between what we're to believe are the dim-witted cops that don't want to think too much into it.
I love listening to the way Defoe talks. To
Yeah,
the
and
cops.
I loved his character of being, that he's sensitive about what's going on. He's putting in his headphones with his
Opera
classical opera music, and I mean, it's.
And I guess it seemed like, and I read this too, it was almost a rip off of Gary Oldman and The Professional, who
Oh,
would
yeah.
put on the music.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
He'd
I
fight
don't
the
know.
little thing. He'd just go crazy, just like Willem Dafoe did the entire movie.
I didn't make that connection. That's
I
a
didn't
good.
make that
that's
connection
a-
at all.
I don't
Because
know.
remember, he would listen to the music, and then they went through the house and killed all their family in the movie. Need to do,
Professional.
Um,
Oh,
The
God,
Professional.
good
Oh
movie.
yeah,
But-
Leon.
yeah. He was. It's almost modeled after that character.
Yeah.
Really? I don't.
I mean,
Maybe.
I could see
I
parallels.
can see the parallel, but I don't know. I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah,
I did. I had never seen it.
Me neither.
I had heard it. It was. I know it's in the. I like. You guys like using this word zeitgeist. Like I knew it existed. I'd never actually seen it, and I was watching it while I was painting, or I was listening to it, and then I was like, I'm gonna have to go back and actually watch it because it sounds really interesting. And then and then
I'm
I'm
glad you
painting.
watched the film for
But
the
no.
podcast.
That's what everybody needs to do.
And so I'm painting, and I look over, and I'm like, "Is that Ron Jeremy?"
It is Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Doing what he
it couldn't
does.
be
died
anybody
doing
else.
what he loved.
It
Go
couldn't have
watch the
been- yeah.
movie. You'll get it.
That's an ugly man. But yes, I was just like,
I think you find out that Ron Jeremy actually has a little acting
Acting
chops.
skills.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was. He was fine.
Yeah.
I had no problem.
He's got
with
some
Ron
great
Jeremy.
acting chops. I
Yeah.
mean, in Orgasmo, he's fantastic in Orgasmo.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the porn star was spectacular in Orgasmo.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
But I haven't
That
slapped
might
my
be,
ass yet.
Well, that was the 70s.
Movies with porn stars in the cast might be a category.
Well, he
Let's-
was in the
go ahead.
70s when they actually had to
That is
act.
Somebody
Porn.
write that down.
Right.
You know, they had to
Cannibal
have a
Holocaust.
plot.
Back when those porns, when they were high quality acting.
Yeah.
Is it?
I watch my porn for the plot.
I get my
I just
Playboy
wa-
for the articles.
Plot
Exactly.
porn.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting we do a season on
I just like that
pornos.
porn.
I was
Porn.
Just movies with a porn star in the cast.
Is it question and answer time yet? Can I? Because I
Sure,
have some.
jump in with some questions.
Well, just
We
because
have, we have a question and answer time. Well, maybe that'd be a nice little segment. Question and answer time.
Start it off. What you got?
since we were just talking about it, clear this up for me. Did Willem Defoe know that it was those two guys? Because I don't think he thought those two guys were capable of such, violence. And I mean, when he caught them doing, it was self-defense. He believed them. I just want to make sure I was following the story straight, because what I got was that he was looking for him, yeah, but he didn't know it was
When
those
he-
two
Yeah, no,
guys.
that's
Not at first.
That's how I read
When
it.
he found the finger was when he knew it was,
It was Rocko.
Rocko,
Okay.
and then he knew
Yeah.
it was them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
But,
how
like,
I was.
before-
I don't
following
think he had any clue it was them
Nope.
until
Right.
he
Okay.
found the
Which
because
is
he was
which-
chasing them, but
Yes.
we're supposed to differentiate that he doesn't know.
Yeah.
It's those two boys
There's
that he already had.
Yeah, because
Okay.
there's a when he's when they're in the hotel room, when they're in the hotel room investigating, and
When the chandelier, when they're coming down, like
Yeah.
the chandelier of the fire.
yeah, and he says there's one of the cops is named Papa Dopalopalop.
Really? Oh, I missed
Yeah,
that.
and he like Willem Dafoe looks at the name tag and he gets the name up right off, and the guy says it, and he goes, "Because I'm an expert in nameology." In that scene, like right around, it's either right before or right after that nameology, he talks about who they're looking for, right? And like super cold blooded,
Right.
doesn't
Okay.
care about anybody. That's not the words that he used, but
But he
something
almost
like that.
contradicts himself in the same scene when he talks about what is wrong with this crime scene. He goes, the movies. You only see this stuff
Right.
from the movies.
James Bond.
The James Bond crawling through the air ducts.
Air ducts, yeah.
Using a rope.
Cowboy, yeah.
Cowboy.
Yeah. He's like, I got bullets from gun A over here killing this guy, but bullets from gun B in the wall. Yeah. So it's the whole thing that Willem Dafoe is going for. I think he hits it in this movie. Is just like his descent into the life that he wants. Right. The life that he wants is to be the two guys.
Which he admits
Yeah,
to.
he
absolutely.
With the priest.
he has hero worshipping of the vigilante,
Exactly.
He does, yeah.
And then finally, by the end of the movie, he's dressed up doing the same thing.
which is what. If you notice, like when you jump to the credits and they're doing the interviews of all the people in Boston about what has happened,
Yeah.
the director was really hoping for and going for is a discussion on vigilantism. Do you agree or do you disagree that people who are, are there people who are evil or are there people who just commit evil acts? And if there's people who just commit evil acts, then they deserve a chance at redemption. But if there's not, and there are evil people, then they deserve to be killed, and vigilantism is okay. I'm not making, much like the movie rides the fine line between garbage and greatness. I'm not picking a side on the vigilante
Right.
initiative, but that's what the director was hoping for.
Yeah, and I liked. Well, it was kind of frustrating, but I think that's what I felt the same way, because you're going to ask that question to a bunch of people. Half the people think so, half the people think not, and then they're like, "We can't be friends with each other," and they're doing this, and I'm like, "Nothing wants to change."
I can't believe you said that.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's almost like Batman, where like you kind of understand what he's doing, but that cops are also after him because he really shouldn't be doing what he's doing.
Sure.
There was something super surprising to me about this movie. Did anybody recognize the bartender of the bar, the Doc, the old man? Fuck ass.
no.
Fuck ass!
He looked
He's
familiar, and I
he's
didn't
the
go into
professor
looking to see
from
who he
Fraggle
was.
Rock.
He is the shop owner from Fraggle Rock. Like
Okay.
you come out and like
Oh, yeah.
he was the
I
shop
think
owner.
I think they were saying he had Tourette's without saying he had
yeah.
Tourette's.
Oh yeah.
I think in one of those scenes, Duffy is standing at the bar, the director of the movie.
Yes,
Oh
he
really?
is.
Well,
And when
in
they
the
beat up
very
the
beginning.
Russians.
Yeah. When they
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
I think y'all wanted to talk about Rocco.
I do want to talk about Rocko.
He's not my favorite character.
He's not
but
my favorite character either, but
He's, I
I
find him
could have
My
done
favorite-
without Rocco
I
in
find
this
him
movie.
really annoying.
But
My-
he's
my
fucking
favorite-
funny,
my
man.
He's
favorite
like
scene-
the funny man because he's a funny man.
My favorite scene is I get in the hotel when they kill the 9 people and he comes in.
Jafar.
yeah.
And they get his gun and they're like, it's a 6-shooter.
There's 9 people in here.
What are we gonna do? Laugh the other 3 to death? I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was
There was a couple good back and forth moments.
But that's the whole point for Rocco is when he finds out that they thought he was disposable. They were sending him in a situation.
By the end of the
Yeah.
movie, by the time he dies, he had kind of grown on me. Like at the very beginning of this movie, I was like, "Oh, this guy."
this guy.
I didn't realize he was going to have such a big part in this movie
But you
when they
figure out
introduced
early
him.
in that he's not a saint. He's not one of the good
No.
guys.
Well, and then he's like, Willem Dafoe says, "Well, the 2 Irish guys won't, but the Italian guy,
Italian
he's
guy's
about to kill some
stupid.
innocent people."
So did they meet him there and then become friends with him? Or did they
They
know
were-
him
They grew
before
up
that?
together.
Yeah, I think
They
they're
all
all
grew up in the
neighborhood.
neighborhood.
And hung out at the
Okay.
same
Yeah.
bar together. Yeah.
Everybody that was at that bar in the very beginning, I took from they grew up together. They grew up in that neighborhood. That the cop, when they're investigating the serial crusher, when the cop comes back, he says, I know this neighborhood pretty good. McGinty's on the blah 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 blah. You know, all the neighborhood guys go down there.
Yeah.
You know, that's
The one brother, the actor that was from The
Norman
Walking
Reedus.
Dead.
Reedus.
Is that Connor or Murphy? I couldn't tell.
Murphy.
That's
Norman
okay.
Reedus is Murphy.
Okay.
Revis. I didn't remember him being in the movie.
Neither
and then I
did
saw
I.
it and I was like, oh, that's him. But then I also on this time around realized I didn't feel like his accent was
on
what
point.
was on point. I felt like it was off.
I mean, the other guy was a
if-
genuine
The other
Irish
guy was
accent,
good.
Yeah.
and then the
Oh,
other.
you mean
Sean Patrick Flannery?
I think
He's-
Flannery
that's a
made it
powder,
much
y'all.
harder for Revis to keep up. You know what I'm saying? Like next to
Yeah.
Flannery, Revis didn't sound quite genuine. But I never caught that when I was younger watching it. I caught it this time around. I was like,
yeah.
that's not a good
Well,
accent.
you had mentioned someone had said to you, you know, you're not going to like it as much when you saw it. And I mean, I would think that, you know, maybe after, 10 years, you said maybe a good decade, that maybe your tastes do change and you do refine. I mean, you look at things differently. Not that you wouldn't like it, but you would look at it differently.
I think I still look at the film and I think it's still good or great for the same reasons. I was more aware of its flaws this time around. Like I said, this time around I noticed the accent didn't work. This time around I noticed that there are some weird the plot didn't seem to their decision to become vigilantes seems I wouldn't say forced.
Well, they were
but it might
like,
be
they even
surprising to you
admit
this
they
time
were like,
around.
well, we just kind of fell into this.
Right. But I was much more when I was younger and watched it, I was much more accepting of the plot. And this time around, there were times I was going, would that have really just questioning the plot a little bit? And then I would say, like, towards the end, like, I remember that El Duce, again, great character. Connolly does an awesome job. I remember him being their father.
Mm-hmm.
But when he
That
came
was one of my
out this
questions.
time around, I was like, why did I think he was their father? Because it goes a long time before you see that there's
Right.
one reference, one time they call
The
him
fathers.
Dad.
Well, they said that it's our father's prayer. When Rocco's like, you got to teach me that
Yes.
prayer. That's good shit. And he's
Which-
that's our father's prayer.
That's
Your
been saying
father's
for
father's
three.
prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I watched it when I was younger, it was obvious to me he was their dad, and it was so cool when he
Oh,
shows
yeah.
up.
I got you.
And this time around, I'm looking for what was the connection? How did I know that
But he
was
was
his dad?
he was his
Right.
dad.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just making sure.
He's their dad.
Now you had me worried. I was like, did I misremember this?
I just assumed that when he didn't kill him, that
well, because he heard
They
the
were-
prayer.
Yeah.
that's when I knew.
So
I didn't
that's
know.
how he knew they were his kids?
That's how.
Because he's been
That's
in
a
jail the
family
whole
prayer.
time?
How can we? I have a question about that.
Okay.
How did he get out of jail? How'd they summon
They
They
got him out.
paroled him.
They paroled
He got
him.
him. They bribed him. They
They
bribed
bribed him
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Well,
They
they
bribed-
bribed the parole board.
To get him out of jail.
The,
to take care
the
of
Italian,
the Boondocks
the
Saints.
Italian boss guy
So
Yeah,
no, he
Yakuza.
was.
wanted to hire
Yes.
him, and they told him, "Oh,
So it's just a
he's
coincidence?
no."
No, he went to the guy who was the
Bathroom
ex
attendant.
underboss, who was a now bathroom attendant
Yeah.
for some reason.
Wait, Papa Joe? Is that what you're talking about?
The
Papa Joe went
retired-
to the bathroom attendant. Yeah.
Yeah, the retired.
Remember, there's a guy he pulled out a
mafioso.
box, and then he like throws some money down. He's like, "I need El Duce out." And he's like, "You don't want to let him out."
He's a monster.
He was a retired underboss for that family.
So it was just a okay.
and so
he
he had bribed the parole board, the restroom attendant guy, to let out El Duce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
for
grease
what?
the wheels.
For what?
So they
Because
could
they were trying the
Italian
Russian mob?
the
He wanted,
Italian. No, so
no what
Well, here's
Sean,
what- here's what
Sean
it's-
Patrick Flannery and Norma Maria's their character's name.
Connor and Murphy.
Yes. Because
McManus brothers.
they're killing off the Iacovetti crime family one by one.
Yes.
and they
Right.
think it's
but why would
they
they
think
break
it's-
out his father?
because
They don't
he-
know it's his father.
right.
they don't know he's
That's
a
what I mean.
father.
It's a coincidence.
Because
That
he
is-
is
that is a
because
coincidence.
he's
Yes.
known for killing wise guys, and they were like,
He
"Hey,
was
but
one
you
of the-
can't
he-
let
he was one of the
he
best
won't stop."
assassins in
That's
the-
the
right.
problem.
Right. Wouldn't kill kids. Wouldn't kill women. But
Right, but he was like-
everybody else, which is
Yeah, he'll
just
kill
a bunch
just
of
like
dudes.
they're doing. He will kill mafia
But they
guys.
didn't know he was his dad.
Yes,
Yes,
Right.
correct.
Pure
'Cause
They,
coincidence.
they just knew his reputation.
So it was a happy coincidence for them.
For them, that was
But
that
again-
was.
but again,
I
it
think
was
that's
his
part
dad.
of the reason they're the Boondocks Saints is because I think you're led to believe that God or a higher power is guiding them and leading them. It's
Oh,
why
okay.
It's why
Never-
they
or
have
I
the
didn't connect
accident
that.
Or
with
at
the
least they-
rope
at
and
least
the
they
thing,
believe
and They
it.
fall in such. Well, they believe that,
They
right?
believe that that's
But I
their
think
calling.
but I think that protection and that guidance from God, I don't think it's there for Rocko. I think that's how Rocko accidentally kills a cat. Like he doesn't have the same.
How did he kill? Okay, no, he
He
shot
doesn't
it.
have
on
it.
accident?
Yeah, he slammed
accident-
his hands down and he hit the gun. His hand hit the gun and
Because
blew
like I
away
looked
the-
up and
there
then
was
the cat wasn't there.
I rewound it 3 times just because I
No,
kept
I
missing
know.
it, and I like rewound it, and then I like looked away on the
Yeah,
back, and I'm like,
yeah.
"What? I just missed it.
Yeah, I was like, there was a cat there. Now there's a
blob
of
on the
blood
wall.
on the wall.
So
yeah, okay.
some of the issues I had with this movie was the villains were. It was like a cartoon, like
Big time,
It
yes.
was like the Russian guys walk in, and you're just like, oh,
My
these
name's
guys.
Ivan
I am
Chekhov.
Ivan Chekhov.
And then the ridiculous Russian mobster,
Yeah.
like with
Well,
what,
it-
I didn't. I
with
was
the
just
wig.
like, I was like, what
The
is
wig
going
and the
on?
fake fat
Yes,
suit.
that was so bad.
Yeah.
Well,
That
then
was-
and then the Russian, when they come in with the attack and they got a bandaged ass
Oh,
and a bandaged
and so
head.
that-
I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so-
Well,
so-
very
come on
cartoon.
now.
So that
Yes.
one guy, and that's really because the one
Well,
guy
he
walks in,
jumps off
he's
the,
wearing a dress shirt and suspenders with dress pants, and they burn him, and then they're like so over bandaged. It was like cartoon bandages.
Yeah.
Right.
But then it was like you dress that nice, and you're like, and you're not going to change your pants. Like
I know, right? You're just gonna leave your bandaged ass hanging out of your burned ass
It
pants.
was the fight scenes were comical, cartoony. I mean, when he jumps off a 5-story building, and because he
Well,
lands on one of the
with a
Russian
toilet.
mobsters,
With a
he's
toilet.
not. He's not hurt. Well, were they
With a
showing?
toilet.
Were
He
they doing
dropped
the
the toilet
gravity
off of
thing
there.
where they're
Yeah.
showing that he and the toilet fall at the same rate?
Yeah, he dropped the toilet on Ivan and then jumped on the other dude.
killing the other guy.
Yeah,
Well, he picks up the toilet lid and bangs his head.
Oh,
too.
that's right.
yeah. His brother,
But he's not hurt from the
smashes.
fall because he lands on a mafia guy.
Well, he
And
gets
an
fucked up.
Acme
He does
mattress.
get fucked up. He has to be carried off, right? Remember, because his brother picks him up, carries him off, and he's off.
But that's at
But he only limps for like 10 minutes.
sure. But he also before he limps, he picks up the toilet with which amazingly the toilet lid does not break during the fall. He picks it up whole and beats that guy's head
That's
with it.
Norman Reedus.
Oh, that's the
Sean
other
Patrick
one.
Flannery is on the ground.
Oh, he
at that
stays on
time.
the ground
Yeah,
the
he's the
entire
one that
time? Oh,
jumps,
okay.
right?
But you're
Norman Reedus picks
Yes.
up the
unbroken toilet lid.
Yeah, which
It's a very
yeah.
I
agree.
It's a very
But
comedic cartoon scene.
the unbroken toilet lid did not make it up to the roof with Sean Patrick Flannery. If you rewind it, there's no toilet lid. He like grabs the
there's-
thing, and the toilet lid comes off as he's pulling the thing off.
You're
Okay.
right. You're right. It doesn't have a lid when he
Flick
drops
flop,
it.
flick flop.
Exactly.
so there just happens to be another toilet lid laying there.
Oh,
next
yeah.
to his
Oh,
brother.
that's
I mean,
probably
yeah.
true.
I mean, it
That's
is
why-
Boston.
That's
break
what
in the
happened.
fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, what do you do with your toilet lids? I throw mine out in the alley.
Absolutely. A new one.
And I
Once
go,
a
I
week,
go
if you
through
need
them.
it or
Man. We go through toilet lids around here. Like, whoa.
I know.
Don't
Invest in porcelain. Okay.
And there's a tangent I wish they had shown was what happened to those nuns
Right? That bitch had a fucking black eye.
The nuns.
in the hospital when they're in the hospital
Oh.
and
There
they're
were-
like doing the slap game with the kids.
I know there were some cutscenes from the hospital, and the reason I know this is because we watched it on Amazon Prime, and when you pause it, it gives you like a little like.
Oh, right on.
And there's some comments. I don't have like the actual, but there's some comments that they make later on in the movie
Well,
that
there's- there-
only make sense if you had watched like the cut scenes.
There's an unrated version
Oh, right on.
But there are some scenes that were cut
Okay.
from the hospital that may have explained
because
what happened
man,
to
I was
those
like looking at
nuns.
those nuns. I was like, man, that's a story I want to see right,
Right.
there.
Like when they go to the what is it, the porn house, the
Yeah. The nudie, the
You
sin
mean
bin.
you mean
the
sin bin?
Yes, the sin bin. Thank you. When they go to the sin bin, one of them makes a comment, something about, "Oh, I'm looking forward to this," and they kill one of the guys. Well, in the hospital scene, they show him.
Oh, yeah.
They show
that's
that
right.
guy. They cut the scene
Because he says,
They
Sean
cut the
Patrick
scene.
Flannery says, I've been looking forward to this. And that's
Yes.
right.
and that because in the hospital scene they show him like either because he's a pimp and he was beating up
Oh,
a prostitute or he did something in the hospital to one of his girls that they saw happen. And they
Gotcha.
didn't do anything at the moment, but when they saw him there, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna take
Well,
care
that
of this."
actually helps me out a little bit because I was always I'm not saying I'm troubled by this, but when they're in the sin bin and they kill after they kill Ron Jeremy, they then force Rocko to kill the other men that are just watching the dancers.
Well, they didn't force him to. They were going to do it anyways.
Rocko wanted to.
Rocko wanted to like pop his cherry on it, I guess.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Let me do it." And he's like, "No."
This isn't after they made him beat the guy at the pool with the
No.
pool.
No, that was before.
That's after.
So they go and they kill Ron Jeremy, and then they see the other guys, and he's like, "Let me kill him." And he's like, "No, I've been waiting to kill this guy." And you're like, "Waiting for what? Like,
Yeah.
what did I? Like, y'all are just killing random
it's a weird
people."
scene,
Exactly.
And I was
And that's
also
why.
thinking, are you equating people who go to titty bars
To sin
the
bin with evil?
to the evil of these mafia?
Because
guys?
I was
No,
worried. Because I was worried. I was like, "Man, I hope I don't get shot when
Well,
I
he
go
also-
jerk off
he
at
also
strippers."
said-
But when I go put my money and look through the glass at some stripper, I'm trying not to get shot.
I remember him
Well-
saying something along the lines of, "I need to make up for that tit thing."
Well, no, because
Yeah, 'cause he was grabbing
She
that
passes
girl's
out,
tit.
and he grabs.
He
her
grabs
tit.
her tit,
Come on, man! I gotta make up for that tit.
but
thing.
that's right before. That's
I
right
love
before he
Rocko,
killed him.
man. I don't know why y'all hate.
Well, right, but he wanted to. But Norman Reedus wanted to kill him.
Okay.
Kill the
I
guy,
just- I
and he
thought
was like,
that
"No,
had
no,
something.
no! I've been wanting to kill this guy." And you're like, "For what?"
For what?
And
Yeah,
I was
well,
like,
that's-
and they're like, "These are just scumbags." And by the way, I only go to like look for the cleanliness and then report it to health.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm doing.
That's the only reason I walk to the
Oh,
sin bin.
when you go to the sin bin.
The sin bin, yeah.
When you go to the
I
rubbing
take my
tugs?
black pen.
You got to make sure they're using the high quality glitter.
Yes. I make sure it's clean. Not health inspector.
That's right.
Right, right.
You better clean this place up, or there'll be hell to pay.
No, you better clean what I just did up.
Take your blue light in there with you, Doug.
That is
Literally, clean this shit up.
It's more like this. Could you clean this up?
All right, moving on.
It's more out of breath.
So when it comes down to, is there anybody else? Did you have any other questions about the movie?
Okay, we talked about the.
Oh, I have
cat.
a question. Word gets out. They're still in the police station. Word gets out. The reporters want to talk to them. They don't want to talk to the reporters. Can we spend the night here? Absolutely. Help yourself to our jail cells.
Well, he did talk to his mom about.
Yep.
Which was hilarious,
That was
by the
awesome.
way.
He did.
I don't know.
He did.
Did she say you can have a sleepover?
Well,
Yeah,
and
ask your
so they
mom.
show him, right? And they let him stay, and there's like people in there with them. And then when they wake up, they just walk out, like the door's open. But like there were people in there earlier in the
but-
day.
Were
like-
there?
but-
Were there like people
my-
in the
my
jail cell,
question
same
is-
jail cell?
Yeah, they were hanging out with him.
The guy Rocko brings them clothes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Rocko brings them clothes so they can change into. They may have were they getting rained on in the cell over the night?
I
What
think
was the
that-
water?
no,
was
I
that
think
all
that
in their
was-
head?
That was
I think that was symbology.
Yes, there was some of the symbology.
What you're looking
in the
for
movie.
is symbolism.
Yeah, no,
Symbolism.
absolutely. It's part of their sainthood, right?
Yeah, they're being like
baptized.
They're being-
yeah, baptized by the
being-
whatever,
they're being washed in the
drowned,
blood of the
drenched
lamb.
in the water of
Yep.
whatever of justice. That's justice water.
Okay,
But
because I
again,
was so confused. Like, I'm like, okay, well,
those
okay,
were
they're spending the night,
those were
and I'm
leaky
like,
justice pipes.
But again, that goes with my argument that they are in that scene when they are baptized and they become the saints and they go on their rampage.
okay, you think that's when they become the
Rocko is
saints?
not actually. He's doing a ride along with the saints.
But he's not
But
a
he's
saint.
never one of the saints,
No.
and
No.
his karma and protection is not there like the saints have. Which is again, I don't think that's why Rocko never survives the movie. It's because he was just a ride along.
Did you see the second one?
A long time ago, yeah. I don't recall liking it though.
I saw the cast list of the second one. He's in the second
That's
one.
why I'm asking because I didn't see it.
He's on the
Oh,
cast.
how
list.
wrong
Rocko in the second one.
Maybe it's a
I don't know.
prequel.
Maybe it's a vision. Maybe he's like
Oh.
there. Maybe it's like
Come to us, funny man.
It's like Yoda.
Yeah,
who
he's like
shows
the
up as a
Obi-Wan.
ghost.
He's
Yeah.
a Force ghost.
I hope he doesn't tell that terrible
the
joke.
sequel, but
He's
I
like,
remember it being
Shoot
terrible.
the cat.
Okay, thank you. I was confused.
That answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
When you had mentioned, I think it was you that mentioned that this felt like a very amateurish film.
Yep.
I didn't know the backstory on the director.
Yep,
Duff.
Duffy.
I didn't
The
know.
Duff
I didn't.
Meister.
Yeah, I didn't know that he wrote this as,
Do you
as
think-
his first screenplay. That makes more sense.
Do you
to
think
me.
he was like, I got to direct this movie. I'll go to the bookstore and buy How to Direct Movies for
Yes,
Dummies.
he went. Yeah, that,
Well, because I mean, like, you got people like Tarantino, right? Who were like worked at a
Worked at a
worked
Blockbuster.
at like a blockbuster or like a
Video
video
rental store,
place.
yeah.
But it was like he was so into the craft,
And
and
the
he
film.
like could do Reservoir Dogs because he was like knew all about it because he studied it and researched it. And this is what I'm going to do. I don't think Duffy did that.
No. Well,
I think he may have had like an assistant director who was like, "Hey, you probably
There
want to
are,
do this."
might be surprised with this, but there are a lot of people who wanted to be actors and directors and writers who end up in the restaurant bartender industry.
No, I'm not surprised at that at all. That's like
So it's
that's almost a
possible
cliche.
It is a cliche, but it is possible that he is one of those. I mean, I don't know his exact background, but a lot of times there are people who are bartending and waiting
But
tables.
was he bartending in Boston?
I'm
Or was he
pretty sure
bartending in LA?
Oh, and it was all shot in Toronto. That was another little thing.
Oh.
Then that's probably that
Okay.
could be where he was bartending. Then I don't know. I don't know.
Because Toronto looks
if he
exactly
if
like
he was
Boston.
bartending in Boston, maybe that doesn't hold
It's
such
kinda like
water.
Vancouver.
As
was
if he was
wondering.
bartending in LA.
I was wondering because I was like,
But he wrote the script and he handed it to
Oh, so yeah.
somebody that
in
he-
the movie industry.
in
So
the
you're
industry
right.
that
Yeah.
worked that frequented
That
his
fucked him
bar.
out.
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes sense.
And
yeah.
then all of a sudden it was a hot property and everybody wanted to produce this film because they loved the screenplay.
yeah.
He got $300,000 for it.
I mean, during the Fresh Facts, we heard all the famous actors that were
Passed on. Hard pass.
not
Well,
good
passed
enough
by
for
him.
my
Keanu
movie.
Reeves is a punk.
Keanu Reeves.
Brad
Well,
Pitt, no way.
Where I really felt the amateurishness of this was in the soundtrack, the selection of the soundtrack.
I love the soundtrack, but I mean
Well,
that's just kind of like it's kind of my cup of tea.
I
but
thought
it's
about the
generic. It's like
It's very. I thought this when I was watching it. I was like, this is a very 1999 soundtrack.
I thought the same
It
thing.
had that
Doug.
like electronica that was happening in the 1990s, like breakbeat and like.
and there was some EDM. There was some EDM, but there was also mixed in with like
it wasn't.
classical and
it
opera
wasn't- yeah.
and Celtic and folk.
It wasn't very linear.
It wasn't linear. It felt like this guy. There was nothing written for this movie.
Yeah.
It felt like they went. The music director for this movie went through a backlist catalog. Was like,
We'll use this.
let's see. I need a movie for
He
shit for a
went
movie
to
in Boston.
what happened is he went to
See,
Sam Goody and he was like, oh, I like this song.
Hey, let me go over to the Celtic listening station.
I thought when watching it that
It's
this
not like
movie
a-
might even be more. Don't get me wrong, this movie's vastly popular, 91% among people, not critics. But it would be. I thought it would behoove the movie if it had a better soundtrack. If he
I
had
think so,
gone
too, yeah.
and found
Had stuff.
had-
I mean, if it's not the case where they actually had somebody dedicate. I was looking at the sound. The soundtrack is written by a bunch of different people, so that's what leads me to believe that no one wrote for this movie. That no one was like scoring to this movie.
right.
And I felt it. I mean, we watched it today, and I was like, all the songs are just like generic.
But when you go back and watch
This was Hans Zimmer. Right?
But part of the
Oh.
weird charm for me going back and watching it is it's a definite 1999 experience.
Oh,
like
big time.
it feels like a 1999 movie. Where it's set and come out. I get that he wrote it as a bartender, but it came out. There are a lot of movies around the same time where it's shoot 'em up with wacky characters and non-necessary and strange mafia characters, and there's comedy and humor and very violent shooting. And we're going to talk about some of those other movies the same season. But so don't get bored with us, folks. We're gonna have to compare and contrast at some point down the road. But it's definitely a 19, and that soundtrack is definitely you're with the tech. There's some tech.
Yeah, there's some techno,
and
there's-
there's some. Yeah,
I
you
didn't
can tell
notice that
everybody has
because I was
that.
like, oh, I like this song, and then like I was listening, and I was like, what song is this?
Yeah,
Why is it in this movie? How does it like?
it doesn't feed, and like the construction of the movie itself, like there are no transitions. Everything is a fade to black or
So
fade
the
from
weirdest
black.
one I thought was when he is at the bar, and the guy's like, he's like snapping his finger, telling him to give him another shot.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
he takes a shot, and he's like, he says something like, shut up, fairy, or whatever.
Yeah.
And he takes a shot, and like people stare at him, and like it transitions all of a sudden, and you're like, what was it? What? Like it was
That-
so abrupt.
I think
Yeah.
it's a brand new director. I think there's a lot of times where he does not know how to get from scene to scene. However, again, like I said
That
earlier,
had to feed that next
Well,
scene.
I know. I'm
though.
just saying though, it was like it happens in all the movies. And,
Yeah,
but I
no,
know,
no,
you
you're
never
right.
watch, you watch a lot of movies and like it'll be like complete scene changes, but you never really notice. It's just like you just accept it. This one, it was like slaps you in the face.
I know,
like,
it's a
this is
total
a scene
smash
change.
cut.
And you're like, what is going on?
Right. His
They are-
transitions are hard, but it works for him definitely in the Defoe. When every time you go into an action sequence, he immediately cuts it off and you go into Defoe's analysis. It works there,
It
but
does.
it doesn't work throughout the. Again, that's why it feels
It's a
amateurish,
one-trick pony.
Because
like
while
that-
it works in those scenes, it makes those scenes fantastic.
You're right. Mhm.
There are other points
Yeah.
in the movie where it's just jarring, and you're like, we just went from A to B with no.
Well, we went from A to C.
with no
Yes,
B in the
exactly,
middle to
for no-
connect it.
Exactly.
Well, and most of the times, I guess what it is he like shows it to you, and like there's like almost a pause where it happens. In a lot of movies where it just like goes to the next scene, and you just like your mind goes with it. This one, it was like big black space for a second, and then cut
Yeah.
to it, and you're just like,
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
like I said, everything's dip to black, dip from black.
I mean,
And there's that 1 second in between where you got a half a second of black and a half a second of black that smashes together, and it just feels like
He's like telling you, I'm going to a new scene now.
Disjointed. It's like, I don't need you to tell me, just do it. I can follow. But that being said, I still enjoyed the movie.
absolutely. I
think
loved this movie.
Willem Defoe honestly makes the movie for me.
Yeah, me too.
Yes,
He does.
100%.
Like, half the time I'm like, are you David Caruso? Are you about to start like a yeah? You know? Because he's just like, here's what happened.
but I'll be honest, I never would have. I mean, the Flanderization of characters.
yeah.
Like I've never seen it happen in a movie. Like it's a 2-hour movie of like he's kind of
But by
quirky
the
and
end,
makes
yes.
jokes, but by the end, by the time he's doing the shootout with El Duce, he's like shooting the gun in the air and like
Yeah.
just completely lost it, and you're just like, you've gone so over the top.
He's gone mad.
I mean,
This case is maddening.
He dressed in drag to get
Yeah.
into the.
Oh, he makes out with the guy.
out
How
with
would
the guy.
anyone believe?
Well,
I don't understand.
And the comment from the
He
guy
looked like
he
Rocky
always-
from The Mask.
He always sends
The top shelf.
top
for-
shelf trim. And
Top
it's
shelf.
like,
No. Top shelf box.
box. Yeah. I'm just like, oh my God, that's top shelf? First up, okay, to be fair to Willem, not as good in drag as, say, Dirty Dancing.
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze, but not as bad as from Too
Willem
Wong Foo.
Dafoe. Oh,
Wesley
Too Wong-
Snipes.
Wesley Snipes. He's like a happy blend.
what's that?
I believe he was
Willem
a lovely
Dafoe
woman.
is not a good-looking man. He's like,
When he's dressed up as a woman, I think it's fantastic.
I think it was good.
It reminds me of
I really do think it was good. It was good in
was.
drag.
Priscilla,
good.
Queen of the Desert. They went with that British actor who plays General Zod in the first Superman,
Oh,
Superman 2, the Christopher Reeve Supermans.
I can't remember.
And they
his
went
name.
with that actor purposely because he is too masculine to really present a woman. I'm not sure William Defoe's too masculine in this
I
film.
don't think he is.
But he doesn't make he's not a pretty person.
Right. I just don't
well,
believe.
man, he's also. I mean, he's gay, but he almost plays on like the whole gay thing. But then, of course, when he's with gay people, he's like, the guy wants to cuddle.
I just
He's like,
wanted to cuddle.
Yeah. He's like, get away from me. Yeah.
yeah. He
And
was-
the whole,
What do you
even the
call it? He calls it a
bartender,
slur.
it's like,
He says, "Get off me, faggot."
Fucking bag it. It's just like, dude.
Something like that. Yeah. I just wanted to cuddle.
But seriously,
It's so bizarre.
But
It is
seriously,
so
if,
but
I,
then, like-
if I'm on the phone with work, it's like, can you not? Can you
Yeah,
just
but-
wait for me a second?
she
to
tells,
hang up?
calling
me
is
that.
not-
Can you believe
He's
that?
such a strange. It's such a strange character. But
Yeah,
like
he
I
is
said
a
But then
earlier,
he'll walk
it's
like,
not a, it's not a PC character.
I
That
look
think you could,
forward-
I don't think
No,
you do
he's
that
not.
character today. I
No.
don't think you could.
I don't think
I
you
don't
could
know.
tell that terrible joke that
Oh,
Rocco told
Yeah.
that
No,
I could
I
have
don't
gone
think so.
without.
And he's like, this is a terrible joke.
Then I'll have a Coke.
And I
Oh, yeah, that black guy. That's what I said. That's what I said.
listening to that, I just wanted
Yeah,
to
that's what I
skip over that whole like.
Well, and then make him say the word. He's just like, and the black guy's like, oh, you mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Inward. Oh, yeah, that's what I said.
he's just,
Ah.
no,
I
yes,
love
it's very not PC.
I loved Papa Joe. I thought he was such a fucking caricature of a stereotype
Well, I
mob
think they
boss.
all were kind of. I think most of the
Caricature.
characters
That's the
were
first thing I thought. I was like,
caricatures.
this is just like, it's like
It is.
the over the top.
Everybody.
Everybody was.
Everybody.
Yes.
The bumbling police officers, the
The hotshot
know-it-all,
FBI
exactly,
agent.
know-it-all FBI, the crazy Irish bartender.
And then the badass
I'll tell you
Irish
what I'm
guys who are
hearing,
like,
and you guys
during
tell me
this
if this is-
mass or like walking past the priest, and everyone's like, no.
Yeah.
Don't bother them.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm hearing from us. I'm hearing exactly why the critics panned it and why the audience
loved it.
Oh,
Yes.
don't
Right?
get me wrong. I
Because-
loved this fucking movie.
I
Because there's so
understand.
much about it that is fun. That is,
It is.
If
It
you
is.
just give into it, if you don't try to, again, I wouldn't try to use this film to argue vigilantism or not. I wouldn't use this film to make any life choices or personal decisions. If you just want to enjoy it for what it is, I can see. Why
I'm
you
happy
would-
with that, Andy, because I
would
did
see
on the
why
way
you
over
like it.
here. I told Angie, I was like, how could Andy hate Red Dawn and love this movie? Like, it's like, they're like, I was like, I could go and do all his critique out of Red Dawn and just nail it on this movie. And I'm like, and he chose this one, but I see you gave us why you chose it. So I understand.
This IMDb labels this movie as an action crime thriller. I completely disagree with this. This movie is 100% a comedy.
Oh,
It is. Action crime comedy.
100%. A comedy.
You could call it an action thriller comedy, maybe.
Nah, I don't agree.
I
with the
got
comedy
an
part.
action
action
comedy.
comedy.
Action comedy.
Action comedy.
Action comedy. Yes.
100%. No
If
thriller.
it would have, if you would have told me that before I watched it,
There
I
is
would have
no
been
thriller in
I
there.
would have been pissed. I probably wouldn't have liked
There's
it.
no mystery that you're sitting
I ex-
there on the edge of your seat.
Absolutely
No, there
not.
is no,
And
there's
there's
no
you know
thriller
exactly.
about it.
There's no
You know
gotcha.
exactly what happens.
There's no gotcha moment except
No.
for maybe when the door opens and William Defoe's in a dress and it has nothing to do.
Well, I think or no, the gotcha moment is
Or
that
when you
the
find out
Duke
he's
is
their
their
dad.
That's
maybe,
the gotcha.
but
That-
maybe.
That's
But I still wouldn't call it
the
a thriller.
only thing.
I mean, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't even call it a crime movie.
I would call it action crime over comedy. I mean, I know
Really?
y'all all disagree, but
I-
well,
I-
I'm
as I said, if you would have told
by
me,
the opening scene, and I'll tell you why.
Well, I don't think it means to be comedy. That's the thing. I think
there
it
were some
means
funny
to
parts.
be.
But if you tell me this is a comedy,
crime
I
thriller.
know
Killing
they
the
had
cat
they
is
had to
supposed
have
to be
meant
funny.
to.
Oh, no,
I think Rocco telling that joke is supposed to be funny.
There's funny
I agree
parts
with
in
you.
it.
There
I think
is
Defoe in a dress
comic
is supposed
relief.
to be funny.
Absolutely.
But-
I
but-
think this whole movie to me is funny.
is this movie?
That's where I think.
hold on, I don't
The
understand.
confessional scene is a comedy.
I don't understand. Is it just because of shooting in the movie, like Columbine? I don't. It was not like they went to a school
They
and
didn't
shot
go to
people up.
school.
I don't
I think
understand
it's
why
just
this
the
was such a.
violence of shooting people.
Well, I think because these two guys just decided to start shooting
Yeah,
up. They weren't cops. They just decided. They
They're
paid
almost
a bunch
dressed
of
in
money
black.
Well,
and then they went
that's-
into this closet
and they-
and grabbed a
that's
bunch
what
of.
they dressed in black.
They're
Yeah.
dressed almost in black trench coats. But
Getting
the
guns
opening
illegally,
scene,
blah,
they're
blah,
in
blah.
they're in a church
Mhm.
and there's a guest priest speaking, and they get up during the middle of church
Mhm.
and they walk up and they kiss the shrine or the statue.
the feet. They
Is
kiss
it the
the feet.
Virgin Mary? Is it
Jesus.
Is
It's
it
Jesus.
Jesus? They kiss the feet and they walk.
A little quick side note on that.
Jesus is their Lord and Savior.
Catholic Church wouldn't let them film in their churches because they didn't agree with the plot of the movie, and that's a Lutheran church.
But as they walk out of the church, one of them starts to the guest priest wants to call them out and go like we're in the middle of the guy is talking and they're
Yeah.
like no don't that's the
That's
one-
the
right. It's almost as if that scene takes place
at the end.
at the
I think
end
it comes. I think the beginning scene is after
Is
the end
the
of the
end.
movie
after
Yeah.
they're already the
Oh.
saints.
I didn't-
Yes.
Because
Oh,
and they're going
okay.
like,
I didn't catch that.
because they're just
They
good
are-
old guys at a bar, you
Yeah.
know, who
And-
like to punt. Oh, hold on. There's one
like
thing.
this.
The meat packing scene where
What
they
was
like
the
punch
point
the
of that?
lady. It's so.
What was the point of that scene? I don't understand.
and it was
What
that
was the
lady's.
point of it?
By the way, it was that lady's first day, and they punch her in the face.
Well, to be fair, she kicked his brother
Oh,
in the
he did.
nuts.
Yes, she did.
Right there, like she
initiated
kicked
it,
his,
and that's a
she
big woman.
kicked his brother
Well,
right in
because
the
he
balls
insulted her
several
about
times.
rule of thumb, which apparently isn't a thing. Rule of thumb. That's not really about. It's
Oh,
like
it should be rule of wrist, huh?
It was a rule of measure. See, yeah, it was a rule of measurement. It wasn't about beating. It was never mind.
you could beat your wife with a stick as long as it
That's like
was
The-
under
the
diameter of
width
your
of
thumb.
your-
that's a
The width of
myth.
your
It
thumb.
was like an actual unit of measurement.
Okay.
you didn't like their reasoning for the rule of thumb, or you're saying that's not actually
It's
true.
not actually true.
What
It sure sounded
What can
good.
you do with that? Should be the rule of wrist.
Oh, and by the way, it was, and then like their response to really being assholes is it's St. Patty's Day. Like, okay,
right?
dude. Okay, yeah, that gives you an excuse, buddy.
Final thoughts, penguins, on
Are we going to give it our flipper scale?
the Boondocks Saints.
I
refuse to
pluralizing.
get-
I
I'm
wanted,
not
I
gonna
wanted to like watching this movie, and and Andy chose it, and I even said, you know, I didn't really care for the movie. It's good. I suggest everybody watch it. I don't really want to ever see it again. Like I'm fine with that. My brother loves this movie. Like, yeah.
That's the
My
only
brother
reason I know
has,
about this movie.
has like Rocko's signature. Norman Reedus is. He goes to like the Comic Cons and like gets
And-
there
and meets them,
And
yeah,
meets them all. And he loves this movie. So
Well,
he's
you know
probably
they have like there are Boondocks Saint nerds out there who have the action figures next to their like superhero action figure. There are
Really?
Boondocks Saint
Wow.
action figures.
Yeah.
There's an idea to
Yeah.
get him a.
say hi to my brother. Hey, Jason.
Oh, does Jason
But
have
when
him?
I told him we were doing this, he was like, "Oh, I love that movie," and I was like, "Yep, you're gonna listen to this one."
yeah. Hey,
So-
Jason.
But yes,
Hi,
I
Jason.
do give it a thumbs up. I mean, it's
I
worth
think
watching.
It's
Flipper up?
it's a solid film. It's a
We don't do
cult
thumbs,
classic.
Douglas. We do flippers.
flipper.
I give one flipper up. I mean, I wouldn't give two flippers up.
I agree,
But-
I forgot we do two, don't we?
Yeah,
I only
I
do.
give one flipper up only because I love this movie. It's so fucking fun to watch. Because
But
even
it's
though
not
it's,
but you know it's not a great movie.
it's terrible. The movie's horrible.
but it's enjoyable. The movie's terrible.
I'm
It is.
with both of you guys. I'm one flipper, man. It's a solid film. I loved it when I watched it. I enjoy it. I can't call it a great movie.
No.
But I would say watch it for Defoe. Watch it for
Absolutely.
for Connolly.
I mean, Billy Connolly's in it for all of like a minute and 42 seconds. But
But you can see why he loved that
I know,
character so
right?
much. You can't.
Oh.
it's such a departure from every character he's ever
I
played.
know we're trying to close out the episode, but at the very end, they shoot up the courthouse and then get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
where is this
no,
courthouse?
No,
They're saints.
They have the police, like FBI Smecker, and his like band of merry detectives are helping him.
They did this on live television. That was the whole get rid of TV.
Oh, that's
and so there's also something I always do when I try to watch action movies is I think to myself after like a big action sequence, I say, I wonder if this is real life, what the fallout been on that. Like, you know, like when that people shot up LA that one time when they robbed the bank. I mean, that was on the news everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like,
While it's
and then so you
happening.
see some movies and it's like these big shootouts and you're just like, and like bodies are dropping everywhere. And we'll probably talk about that in the next movie. And you're just like, what's the police response to this? And like, could you imagine the news after like some of these things? And
Yeah.
Well, but that's why they were able to go to the
but you
public and
couldn't
ask
go to
them their
the
opinion.
courthouse. I mean,
Again, the movie kind of takes place in kind of a cartoony.
oh, you're right.
a
Well,
cartoony.
and I
good-
guess because
good
I've
guy universe.
I've been to a courthouse and there's a lot of like metal detectors. I imagine there were
Sure.
some even back in 1999.
Boston's a very small town, and they only have one court in that courthouse. So, and it's probably
it's
way
in
away
the
from
town
police
square.
station.
Ah,
Yes,
gotcha.
police station on
Okay.
the other side of town.
Right,
So
right.
like it was very
and it's
slow
one of those little
response time.
wooden.
And the cops, they were all
Oh,
tied up.
the best part
you know,
was-
helping little old ladies across the
With that,
street.
and they had the metal
getting some
detectors.
donuts.
You know, with no one at it, they could
Exactly.
just throw
the bag of guns over.
And I was not. Why did they even throw them over? They
I
could
know,
just.
why not
Walk,
just
there's
walk
no one
through?
there to stop
Well,
them.
they don't want the noise to attract anybody.
Yeah, but shooting the place up.
That's what.
Because that's pretty inconspicuous. Bringing a sawed-off shotgun and blowing some dude's face off on
Okay,
TV.
I enjoyed the movie.
I did too.
It was
all
enjoyable.
of that said, I loved it.
It was.
what
It's
about how many
ridiculous. I'll give it a flipper up. If it's on TV, I'll probably watch a little bit of it. I won't purposefully seek it out.
Sure.
But no, it was enjoyable.
Jessica?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it. I give it one flipper. Same reasons y'all have. If now, just to reiterate what I said earlier, if someone would have billed this as a comedy, I probably wouldn't have liked it at all because I would have been expecting it to be. Let's say if you call something a comedy, it has to be 60% comedy, and then whatever comes out. Like that's the main thing.
It did have a funny man in it.
It had a fun. It had funny parts, but just like
It wasn't funny enough all the way through for you.
a movie from a previous season, Edge of Tomorrow. Like I don't think that is a comedy, but the humor got me. I just think of it as an action movie.
Was it a comedy? I don't think it.
I wouldn't call that
There's
a
a
comedy.
lot of good, solid comedy in it.
I know, but just like Ace Ventura is a comedy. Like you go out and you say this is a comedy.
There are
You're
different
gonna
kinds of comedy, I guess.
Okay, well, I
Some-
give it one. I give it one flipper
There's
up for being an
highbrow
action.
versus lowbrow and
crime
everything in
thriller.
between.
Yeah,
I liked it.
it was
Oh.
enjoyable.
So 5 flippers from the Penguin team.
We got a 5 flipper
From the
movie
Dirty
here.
Penguin. 5 flipper movie here,
Yep.
folks.
I think that's a solid score.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was a fun movie Could we agree it was a fun movie?
No, it's fun.
With,
No, I think
with
we-
it had its flaws.
Like I said, everyone should see this movie at least once. It's,
Yeah.
it's good enough to see once. At least you've seen it, and you may probably be one of those people who see it all the time. But
I've been
Jason?
wanting to see it for
No, if
its
you want to be able to talk
infamous-
movies, I think you need to. It's a cult classic that
You're
you
right.
can compare and contrast with a lot of other movies, and you'll probably hear us do so in the next couple of episodes.
Mhm.
That's right. Well, Penguins. Boondocks Saints. I think we can mark that down in our books.
the
as-
Boondock Saint.
Yes, the Boondocks Saint.
No,
We
So
can-
is Rocko the Boondocks Saint out of all of this, right?
he's the apostrophe S in
He's the
Boondocks.
That's why it gets dropped.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Boom, boom.
Exactly.
Do we
now
have a
an
sound
angel in
effect for that?
He
Yeah.
followed the cat.
And on that note,
And on that note, exactly. All right. Well, that does it for our Boondocks Saints episode.
Stop.
For our Boondock Saints episode. Go out, check us out on the social medias. We have a Facebook fan page, The Dirty Penguin Presents. We have an Instagram fan page, The Dirty Penguin Presents. Check us out on Twitter, @DirtyPresents. Or you can go to our website and find all of the stuffs, thedirtypenguinpresents.com. Send us a message, drop us some comments on our website. Tell us what you think about the movies. We'd love to hear from you. But until then, please wait in anticipation for our next episode, which will be
way of the gun.
The way of the gun.
Way of the Gun. That's right.
Do do do.
Dum, dum, dum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Yes. Sounds
Hey.
Oh, yay. Shots fired.
Shots fired before we even get there.
I'm ready. I'm ready for this
right.
next
Oh
one.
no.
All right, Penguins, can we squawk it out? Squawk, 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 squawk.